Hello, and welcome to another Angry's unit of the week. And today we're taking a look at the Elefant tank destroyer. So continuing where we left off from last week with the Tiger P, where the Porsche company has produced round about 80 or so Tiger P hulls after they failed the heavy tank trial. They had, well, 80 hulls which needed to be used for something. Fortunately, the German army actually had a use for this hull. You see, they were introducing the Pak-43 gun around this time, and they were looking to stick it into as many armoured vehicles as possible. And they thought, hey, the Tiger P would be a perfect fit. I mean, we can't stick it in the turret, but we could make like a casemate superstructure, and we could use it as a heavily armoured and heavily armed tank destroyer. And henceforth, the Ferdinand tank destroyer was born in 1943 by sticking this big 88mm gun in a very heavily armoured superstructure, 200mm to be exact. They were first used during a battle of Kursk, where they performed alright, all things considering. At long range, they were very deadly with its rather long 88mm gun, and the heavy armour meant that Russian tanks really could not respond to it with effective fire. However, there's a rather funny anecdote of a bunch of Ferdinands being asked to attack up a hill, so they go and attack up a hill. And then one or two of them self-combusted just due to engine failures. 40 or so Ferdinands would survive the battle, and they'd be pulled from frontline service, where they would see some modifications in early 1944, mainly adding a machine gun as well as a commander's cupola. It'd also be renamed to the Elefant, but there's conflicting sources on who and why it was renamed to this. So, with 40 or so of these heavily armoured and slow tank destroyers available to the German army, they decided to redeploy them to Italy with high and mountainous terrain. But they wouldn't stay in Italy for too long, as later in 1944 they were redeployed to the Eastern Front to deal with the Soviet offensives, and then a few would end up surviving all the way to the very end in the Battle of Berlin. In-game, the Elefant is a 180-point tank destroyer available exclusively to the 20th Panzer Grenadier Division, and it has 2 weapons. So, for weaponry, you have the big-ass 88mm with 40 AP shells and 10 high explosive shells. You shoot a tank with this gun, the tank is not going to have a very good time. And if you shoot infantry, they're also not going to like it too much either. And you have a single machine gun, just in case. Down to the miscellaneous stats, it has 190mm of frontal armor, strong top armor, 95mm on the side, and 85mm on the back. It goes a whopping 14 km off-road and 30 km on the road, has medium stealth and normal optics. During battle, the Elefant is a rather simple unit. There's really not too much to say here, because it does what you think it does. It's a tank destroyer, and it blows up tanks. It's very good at blowing up tanks. I mean, the 88mm can essentially knock out every single armoured vehicle within the game, and then some. IS-2s are not going to be too much of an issue with this gun, especially at long range. As well, with your very, very thick frontal armour, you're just not going to really die in long-range engagements as well. Those IS-2s, which you're going to be engaging at, are going to have a hard time penetrating you. So really, the main issue of the Elefant in terms of its vulnerability is worrying about air power and heavy artillery dropping on top of it. Because it is not a very fast unit, it can't exactly relocate very quickly. But the nice thing is that this is a tank destroyer, so it does get the tank destroyer benefits of having medium stealth and normal optics, which is much better than your usual tanks. So even though this is a very big and chunky boy, you can actually hide this thing pretty damn effectively within forest for its size, of course. And yes, it can kind of spot stuff thanks to its normal optics, but you're still gonna want to have recon units. In terms of actual use in a battle, in 1v1s you don't really see it all that much because 20th Panzer Grenadier isn't really played that much in 1v1s, and also just the German super heavies are usually a little bit too expensive to really make it worthwhile. I usually see people just liking to use Pak-43s instead because you can get the same firepower but on a much cheaper platform, not a very mobile one. Team games, rather, it's a completely different issue. I mean, this is one of the holy trinity of German decks to be bringing into a 4v4 team game, such as with 21st Panzer and 16th Panzer Division, as his thing in a team match will just absolutely devastate. Because in team games, it's pretty much just a choke point fight, let's be real here, usually at longer ranges. It's about who can bring the biggest and baddest tanks, and this is a pretty big and pretty bad tank. So 20th Panzer Grenadier is a very good division for team games. You also have pretty good availability of the Elefant, 3 cards of them, with 1 in A phase, 2 in B phase, and 4 in C phase. So you can definitely get a rather decent amount, especially if you're playing a team game. You can, you know, have at least 8 Elephants if you're being reasonable. Heck, 12 if you really want to C phase spam. And yeah, that's the Elefant. It's big, it's powerful, it blows up tanks. Simple as. And well, I'm going to leave it off here. This has been another Rank Rouge Unit of the Week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And usual, please just take it easy.